Shabbat Shalom. So this Shabbat, we are reading Parshat Pinchas, which includes a couple of different stories, but there's one that is really incredible. And that's the story of the daughters of Zelophehad. And it's not just incredible because the word Zelophehad is incredibly difficult to say, but because of the justice that is meted out by these young women who see an injustice in the world around them and choose to stand up to use their voices to create change. So these group of sisters recognize that the way that the law is set up in Israel is such that when a father dies, his property is supposed to go to his sons. But what happens when a father has no sons? And the daughters, upon their father's death, go to Moses and they say, "Our father had no son. Shall his inheritance, shall his name, shall his legacy just disappear into the wind? Why should we not be able to inherit what our father left us?" And Moses goes and he hears what they have to say, and he goes and he speaks to God, and ultimately decides that the women are just, that what they're asking for is right. But it's even more than that. God and Moses not only correct this injustice for Zelophehad and for Zelophehad's daughters, but change the law for all time, so that this injustice will never happen again. Zelophehad's daughters are an important reminder that it's up to each of us to speak up when we see something wrong in the world. When we witness or experience injustice, whether it's against ourselves, against another person, against our planet, it's our responsibility to open our eyes, to recognize it, to address it, and do what we can to correct it. Our Shabbat liturgy urges us towards this awareness and action. Our prayers invite us to see clearly with our eyes, to listen deeply with our ears, to open our lips and speak words of praise and words of justice, and to sit in silence and reflect and ponder. Sometimes prayer doesn't feel like action. We don't necessarily feel like Zelophehad's daughters bravely standing up and speaking out as we sit in this room. But perhaps prayer is instead a practice. It's an opportunity for us to practice those skills, to see, to practice listening, to practice speaking and contemplating, so that when we emerge from this small piece of Ha'olam Haba, that small piece of the world to come that Shabbat represents in our lives, we're ready to roll up our sleeves and get to work. Before we light our Shabbat candles to welcome in Shabbat, it's important that we take a moment to know who we are sitting amongst as we begin our prayer this evening. I invite you to turn around and introduce yourself and wish a Shabbat Shalom to someone who you did not come here with, someone who is a new face, to welcome them and make them feel at home. With those words of welcoming and greeting, we welcome our Shabbat by lighting our candles. I now see why everyone uses the electric lighter instead. Shake it. Hey. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. And we welcome the sweetness of Shabbat with our Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron le'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila le'mikrae kodesh, zecher le'tziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'charta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, ve'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava uvratzon, kinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Amen. L'chaim. At this point in our service, it's our custom here at Temple Beth El to take a moment to share moments of Shehechianu, moments of joy and gladness, blessings in our lives that we would like to share and celebrate as a community. So if anyone has a simcha, a celebration that they would like to share, I invite you to raise your hand and share it with everyone in the room. Yes, Brett. A new car. What was that? First new car in 21 years. Well, best of luck. Isn't car shopping the best? Any other blessings, good things that have happened in the past week? I'm grateful that for the first time, I think maybe since I moved here, that at 6 o'clock, the clouds didn't come out and it started downpouring. I think this is the first day that that has happened, so I am very grateful for beautiful weather. Oh, Alan. I was just going to say, what greater blessing is there in the world than a good board meeting? We join together in the words of Shehechianu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu b'kimah ve'ehyanu lezman hazeh. In a commentary on our Torah portion, Rashi notes that Zelophehad's daughters saw what the eyes of Moses did not see. It's incredible that even one of the greatest leaders in our history was blind to an injustice that the law that God created inflicted upon people. But the daughters of Zelophehad helped him to see it. And more importantly, he was willing to confront it and address it. We all have our blind spots. It's easy to get lost in the shuffle of the day to day, to get so concentrated and bogged down on the tasks and the challenges that lie before us that we lose sight of the needs of others. But when we're willing to listen, to open our hearts and our minds to the perspectives of others, we can gain a clearer picture. We're about to welcome the Sabbath bride with the words of Lecha Dodi, and immediately after, we'll recite the words of Baruch, our call to worship. We sing the words, "Am I awake? Am I prepared?" In other words, before we can offer our Mariv prayers, we need to take a moment to check in with ourselves. We need to be aware of whether or not we're ready, spiritually, physically, and emotionally, to pray. So too must we always be checking in with ourselves every day. Are we awake? Are we prepared? Are our eyes open to what is happening around us each and every day? Are we noticing? Noticing the good and the bad, the joy and the pain, the righteousness and the injustice? Are we willing to listen to others who might see what we cannot? We continue with the words of Lecha Dodi. continue with the words of Mariv Aravim, our prayer thanking God for enabling us to distinguish between day and night and for the way that life continues to roll one into another. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Sher ro ma'ariv aravim, Bechokma poteach she'arim, Uvitzvana mishane itim, Umachalif et hazmanim, Umisader et hakochavim, B'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, Borei yom v'layla, Golel or mipnei choshech, Bechoshech mipnei or, Uma'avir yom umevi laila, Umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzevaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. Please be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'otecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha Veshinantam levanecha, v'zibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, uvlechtecha v'terech, uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha, ukshartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha ubisharecha leman tizkeru v'yitem et kol mitzvotai, v'yitem kedoshim le'leihem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzetzi etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem emet. When God speaks to Moses from the burning bush and calls him to be the one who's going to free the Israelites from bondage, Moses' first response is, "No, I don't think so." He says, "It can't be me. I'm not the guy. I am slow of tongue." Commentators debate what that means, but perhaps he had a stutter or some other speech impediment, and so he believed that he could not possibly be the one to stand up and speak out against this injustice of slavery. Sometimes, when it's the most difficult, when our tongues feel the slowest and the heaviest, when our lips are sealed the tightest, those are the moments when it's the most important for us to muster all of our courage to open our mouths. Moses' speech ultimately leads the Israelites to the other side of the Red Sea, basking in freedom and singing out in exultation, "Who is like you, Adonai?" We continue with the words of Micha Mocha. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat. The people of Israel shall keep Shabbat as a sign of the covenant for ages to come. We continue with the words of Veshamru.
Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorot ha'merit olam beinu ve'en b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam beinu ve'en b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam.
We begin our Amidah prayer, which is the central piece of our liturgy, with these words, Adonai sifatai tiftach. Adonai, open up my lips. It's the climax of our evening service. We've been preparing for this moment throughout the entirety of our worship. And yet, we still have to ask God to help us open our mouths. There's an understanding that in order to sing God's praises, we need to do what can sometimes be incredibly scary, opening our mouths, hearing our own voices. I think it's an acknowledgement by the rabbis who compiled this liturgy that oftentimes the injustices that we see in the world around us can cause us to fall silent, that are so innumerable and vast that there are no words, that it makes it difficult to have the will to open our mouths and sing God's praises when there's so much pain and destruction in our world. So we ask God for help just to get us going, so that we may access not only the words that were fixed on the page generations ago, but also the prayers in our hearts. We continue with our Amidah on page 164. Force of habit, please rise.
Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chaste Avot Ve'imahot, Umevi geula livnei v'neihem leman shemo b'yahava. Melech Hoser u'Moshiach u'Magin Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor leolam Adonai Mechayer hakol atah rav lehoshia Morid atah Mechalkel chayim bechesed Mechayer hakol berachamim rabim Somech noflim verofech cholim Umatir asurim Umekayem emunato Lishenei afar Mikamocha ba'al gevurot Umido melach Melech memit umechayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua Ve'le'eman atah lecha chayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh kadosh utoshi bechol yom ruach hasela. Baruch atah Adonai kadosh.
Please be seated. While we begin our Amidah by asking God to open our lips, we close this section of our prayer with silence. Perhaps it's a reminder that there's a time to speak out, but also a time to be quiet, a time to listen. Sometimes fighting for justice demands that we are not the person in the room who speaks, but rather the person who listens. Sometimes we're not the right person to be speaking, to be fighting loudly for a specific change, but rather we need to be the ones quietly supporting from the back. Zelophehad's daughters were the right people to bring this injustice to light. The fault in the law directly affected them. When we see something wrong in the world, sometimes our first inclination is to speak out, to grab the megaphone. But we must first ask ourselves, am I the right person to be doing this? It's a constant struggle to manage that tension between when to step up and when to step back. But perhaps the structure of our Amidah prayer, a standing prayer in which some people choose to actually move forward and move back, is a way for us to practice living in that tension, to push us to think about when our voice could be louder and when our voice might be softer. We take a few moments of silent prayer and reflection.
Shalom Rav al Yisroel Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisroel Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu
from our prayer for wholeness and peace throughout the world to thinking of individuals in our lives who are in need of healing and wholeness and peace. On our walls, we have the names of individuals in our community who we are thinking of this evening. If there's anyone that you are thinking of, I invite you to share their name as I walk around the congregation. Jim McKenna, Larry Sheps. Please rise for the words of Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tetz gedula leotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol ha'aretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. Please be seated. Our thoughts turn to those who are no longer with us, but whose memories live on in our hearts and we carry with us each and every day. As a community, we're holding these individuals who are in the period of Shloshim, the first 30 days. Herbert Corday, husband of Mildred Corday, father of Barry Corday. Sam Foster, partner of Gloria Pepper. Varda Kaufman, aunt of Eve Nichols. Steve Kaufman, husband of Judy Kaufman. Ellen Kelso, mother of Marty Kelso. Sally B. Kohlenberg, mother of Julie Tash, grandmother of Gemma Novak. B. Melvin Swire, grandfather of Sam Swire. We remember on their yard site Edward Benson, Bob Buer, Harry Binder, Madeline Blumenthal, David Cabelis, Rose Cohen, Marla Drucker, Harold Emery, Goldie Friedman, Joseph Worstman, Hyman Gallinkin, Molly Goldberg, William Gross, Samuel Hunt, Susan Jacobson, Abby Schwartzbach Johnson, Ira Christenberg, Abraham Nofsky, Ann Crone, Kenneth LaRoe, Sema M. Liebold, Ruth Leibman, Elaine Leifert, Joseph E. Levy, Sidney M. Lids, Wilbert Locklear Sr., Barry Marshall, Henry Moore, Sophia Novell, Josephine Pollock, Don Payton, Mark Pyshore, Susan Rosen Patterson, Morris Rubin, Gail Sando, Jane Schreibman, Herbert A. Schwern, Frank Shore, William Sims, Jesse Simon, Peter Jared Sitzman, Carol Slotkin, Saul Sossenkin, Louis Sternstein, Henry Weber, Albert Weiner, Joseph Weisenberg, Florence Weisenberg, Bernard Weisfeld, Jackie Winsky, Susan Rose Wolkowski, Carol Yesley. We rise as one community in support of all who are in mourning and join together in the words of the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitz Gadal, V'yitz Kadash, Shmei Rabbah, V'yalma Divrach Pirotei, V'yamlich Malchutei, V'chayechon U'vyomechon, U'v'chayei T'chol Beit Yisrael, V'agala V'zman Kariv V'imru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam Almei Almaya. Yitz Barach V'yitz Shabach V'yitz Pra'ar V'yitz Romam V'yitz Naseh. V'yitz Adar V'yitz Aleh V'yitz Alal Shmei T'kudusha Brichu. Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata. Tushbechata V'nechamata. Da'amiram B'alma V'imru. Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemayim. Yim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'imru. Amen. Osei Shalom Bimromav. Hu Ya'aseh Shalom. Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'imru. Amen. Zichram Nan Livracha. May their memories be for a blessing.
Oseh Shalom Bimromav. Hu Ya'aseh Shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru. Amen.
A few announcements. You may be seated. A few announcements for some upcoming events. On Saturday, July 30th at 6 p.m., the Porch invites young adults, young couples, and families with young children for an evening at the White Water Center to enjoy River Jam together. River Jam is a free concert series. All you have to pay for is parking. We plan to meet at 6 p.m. to explore, hang out, and picnic together before the concert starts at 7. We will have a tarp set up, but feel free to bring your own camping chairs for extra seating. Please register by Wednesday, July 27th. Advance registration requested, but walk-ins are welcome. We also have coming up our Wild Acres Retreat, the triumphant return of Wild Acres from September 2nd through 4th. Thank you for the woo. Temple Beth El's annual Wild Acres Retreat is a multi-generational congregation-wide weekend retreat. Adults, children, and families of all shapes and sizes are encouraged to join us for this annual retreat. The weekend will be Labor Day weekend, and it will be 4 days long. Wild Acres attendees must be members of TBE with a current 2022-23 MTC, and you may register in ShoalCloud. And with that, we will close with the words of Shir Chadas, Sing Unto God a New Song. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom.
How are you? Shabbat Shalom. I'm here with my friend Rebecca who just joined. How are you? Park. Oh, you know Rebecca? Yes. Oh, Charlie. Yeah. Going to the day school. Oh, you had all of them. Oh, yeah, the day school. The day school. Yeah. Yeah, that's my husband.
Yeah, oh, you're good. Nice to meet you.